there's votes that are going on, so I went over to cast my vote. I'm sorry I missed some of your comments. There'll be a second vote on in about 20 or 25 minutes from now, but we're going to try to continue the hearing. I just really want to respond briefly to some of the comments that have been made in regards to inflation, cost, and small businesses. Mrs. Staff, I appreciate your acknowledgement in your written testimony as to the importance of the PPP program to keep businesses afloat. The PPP program was created by bipartisan leadership in the United States Congress. I was proud of the role that the Small Business Committee played, working with Senator Rubio, Senator Collins, Senator Shaheen, and myself in drafting the Paycheck Protection Program. And then in the American Rescue Plan, we fine-tuned it so that we could really tailor it to the small businesses that needed it the most. And the statistics from 2021 indicate that we were able to get to the smaller small businesses, to those in underserved communities, that we were able to get to those that were so desperate. And your observations are similar to the observations that I have received in going through my small business community. On Small Business Saturday, I was in Annapolis visiting small business owners who told me literally they would not be open today but for the help they got in regards to the small business aid programs as a result of the coronavirus packages. So I just want to dispel the concept that what we did to help small businesses and keep them alive, keep our economy moving, prevent from going into a deep recession, is not why we have high prices today. High prices are a result of many factors, including a supply chain challenge, in which one of our colleagues, Senator Cantwell, has worked on legislation to innovate and create and manufacture here in America that we're going to be going to conference. It's a bipartisan bill to try to deal with supply chain issues that will deal with some of our challenges on cost, as well as some of our workforce challenges, for example, the cost of childcare, keeping too many women, particularly out of the workplace. So we have a game plan to deal with the cost centers, but I just really don't want to blame the help that we've given to small businesses as anything other than helping our economy survive the greatest pandemic in 100 years. And I'm proud of the work that we did, near unanimous. We had a few members of the Senate who disagreed with the programs, but by and large, this has been a collective effort in order to keep our economy moving during the coronavirus. So I want to get back to the franchise issue because I do think the franchise model is a critically important model for our economy, and I recognize that. I recognized it from the beginning. But it does have certain vulnerabilities because of, in cases, the contractual relationship between the franchisor and the franchisee. So if I might, with Professor Emerson, start with your view. You said favorable things about the need for certain congressional action in order to deal with making information available to potential franchisees. Could you elaborate as to where you think the greatest priority should be placed in providing information to a franchisee? We know that the legislation deals with financial information and failures, et cetera. But where do you think there's need for more definitive regulation? You're on mute, I think, Professor. You still cannot hear you.
Okay.
We hear you now.
Is it unmuted now?
Yeah, you're okay.
I knew that would happen. Now, I think that the biggest problem, as I've said, really is there is a lot of information out there. And a lot of it, I think, if franchisees, prospective franchisees, put in the time, they can get better information, but the ability to compare to other franchises that they may be looking at, to cross into other industries and look at them, to kind of evaluate their costs not being franchised, but otherwise investing in some other opportunity is very difficult for them to do because of the way that the data is just sort of presented. And I think in time, this will probably become easier for people to handle, but anything that can be done by the FTC, the IFA, the SBA, or others, or could be facilitated by an act of Congress to make that data available would be very useful. I think that's one reason I think S1120 could be so helpful, is what it might provide in terms of the ability to give that more data to prospective franchisees. A lot of the things I outlined in my written statement are more problems substantively, I think, in terms of some of the things in a franchise agreement, or the procedures for dealing with them, and anything at the FTC level or the SBA level that could give more information to franchisees about what it is they're dealing with would be good. But for now, I don't think Congress has really shown that much inclination going into substantive mode. If Congress wanted an act on franchising, that would be entirely a different matter.
Thank you. Mrs. Staff, you can give us a unique perspective both as a franchisor and a franchisee. So tell us what information is the most useful to have available to a potential franchisee in deciding whether to move forward with the business opportunity.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, outside of the leadership and the history of the brand, I think the item 19 is obviously very important for prospective franchise owners. I also believe that item 19 is the best place to start, because that will allow a prospective franchise owner to see the health of the brand, openings and closures, and then be able to have full access to all of the other franchise owners, and then can conduct their due diligence. So those are the two areas of the FDD.
So let me turn to how the SBA can be helpful to a franchisee. Mm-hmm. In what areas do you think the SBA could improve its ability to help franchisees in making decisions on franchise agreements or to be able to operate as a franchisee?
Yeah, so I think that the SBA directory might be a good place to start. So this was, in conjunction with the IFA, was formed, and it set criteria with the SBA. And one way that we could make, one thing that we can look at is maybe expanding that criteria.
And in regards to the financial tools that are available through the SBA, from the numbers we're looking at, it looks like there is a pretty active use by franchises of the tools at the SBA for financing. Do you have any suggestions as to where you think the priority should be? We have the 7A program, obviously. We have the smaller programs, such as the microloan programs. We have the 504 programs on refinancing. Is there a particular challenge that you see in any of those tools that we could fine-tune to help franchise owners?
Well, I'm honored that you would ask that. So just in my personal experience, traditionally a lot of our franchise owners use the express loan, and that has been just a bit of a challenge from a time perspective. I don't know if it's a backlog from PPP loans or what have you, or the fact that we are a low dollar loan because we don't have assets. We're a service brand. But we find that it's taking a considerable amount of time before our franchise owners get funded for their express loans.
We do find a general problem in regards to the loan programs at the SBA, that those that are smaller in dollar amount generally are not the priority of private financial institutions. They like larger loans generally. If they could do one loan rather than have to do three for the same number of dollars, they'd rather just do one loan. So we do find a challenge in regards to the smaller amounts of loans for the smaller numbers. I take it that in the franchise world, you have large franchisees and you have small franchisees. So you have different ones that qualify for the SBA programs. That's one of the reasons why there's under consideration today a direct lending program by the SBA, so that there would be no disadvantage on the size of the loan that is being requested under the 7A program. There's also proposals to deal with the cost of the 7A loans, recognizing that for smaller companies, that cost issue can become an obstacle for getting a loan. Your observations seem to indicate that the smaller the loan, it can be more challenging to get the attention of a private bank?
Certainly, that's my observation. I don't have obviously the proof of that, but I do feel that our loans are just taking an enormous amount of time, where other more asset-heavy franchise systems are getting their loans quicker. So that would be great for us.
I'd be glad to hear from any of the other panelists if you want to make some additional comments. We had the time. So, Ms. Tipton, do you want to add anything to the discussion?
Just off of what she just said, I don't know, I don't have the numbers or anything either, but maybe the loans may take longer because of the fact that there are no asset loans. Maybe the due diligence in that is different. I don't know.
Professor Yelowitz, in regards to franchise businesses, are there particular challenges that you find in regards to the SBA tools that are available?
I think that Ms. Staff and Mr. Tipton, being business owners themselves, probably are more expert on that. So I don't think that that's my wheelhouse.
Okay. Professor Emerson?
I would tend to agree with Professor Yelowitz. The only thing I would add is my concern, and I can't verify this, is information that is privy to the SBA in terms of the guarantee function or lenders, but not available to the franchisee, the prospective franchisee itself, in terms of arranging for the loan to be approved. And that strikes me as at least from an angle of equity, problematic. And there's at least people that think that that is a problem. Certainly when you look at what Senator Cortez Masto's office filed, the intimation at least that franchisors are imparting information to help sales prospects get a loan, but not providing that information to the franchisees under some cloak of confidentiality would be very troubling to me.
That's an important point. That's one of, we're going to be in conversations with the SBA on some of these issues and try to work with them. I think much of this can be done administratively, so as has been pointed out, so we will be working directly with the SBA to see whether we can't deal with some of these issues through their practices. And I agree with Professor Emerson. There's a lot of information out there, but if you are just starting a franchise business, you don't have deep pockets, you don't have a lot of people on payroll to be able to delve through all this information. It's got to be made available in a useful way. And it's hard enough now to get through all of the requirements to get the loans and everything together to start a business. You don't have the resources to try to wade through all this information and go through all this challenge in order to be able to move forward. We had to find an easier way to get this information available to potential franchisees. So I think your point is very, very well taken.
Chairman, I was just going to mention also, it was mentioned earlier about disclosure beyond, in my experience with my franchisor, beyond all of the disclosure statements, we were encouraged to go talk to other franchisees all over, everywhere, all over the country. So I just wanted to mention that too, that there was, that was a big benefit in my start.
I think that's excellent advice. My experience is that, again, the successful franchise brands want that to take place. That's why they're successful. They want to make sure it's the right fit for the franchisee, and talking to other franchisees can be extremely helpful to know what you're getting into and make sure that's what you really want to do. So I think that's really good advice, and I'm going to agree with many of the panelists that a lot of this is just common sense type information we got to get out there to make a decision. It's maybe already be out there, it's just hard to find, and we need to facilitate. One of the things I've learned about the SBA and where it's most valuable, and the resource partners that work for small businesses, is that the more mentoring, the more technical help, the more connections that can be made through the SBA services, the more successful a young business is going to be. So any connections that we can make in that regard, including connecting with other franchisees before a potential franchisee makes a decision, is going to be helpful. So I appreciate that advice. Let me thank again all four of our witnesses. This has been extremely helpful. We'll be following up, and we may be contacting you to help us as we go through this field. The record will remain open for 2 weeks, and with that, the committee will stand adjourned with our thanks.